Welcome to CSBJ Radio. CSBJ Radio is the premier online business talk radio show in the Southeast. CSBJ proactively connects, informs, and engages its listeners in all aspects of small business. Discover the entrepreneur in you with CSBJ Radio. Now, here's your host, Greg Wilson.
Hello and welcome to another edition of CSBJ Radio. I am your host, Greg Wilson, the owner and publisher of Connection Small Business Journal. You can find us online at www.connectionsSBJ.com. Again, that is www.connectionsSBJ.com. We literally use every aspect of social media. We encourage you to connect with us via our Facebook page. Our Facebook page specifically is, of course, facebook.com/connectionsSBJ. If you're interested in any advertising opportunities here on CSBJ Radio, CSBJ TV, our journal, our website, feel free to give us a call. That telephone number is area code 706-289-7863. Again, that's 706-289-7863. If you're maybe interested in connecting with us, we encourage you to give us a call, and we can make those advertising needs happen for you. I had a situation before I get into the topic of today's podcast, I just had a situation on yesterday being Sunday. If you are a small business owner like myself, rarely, and I do mean rarely, do you have downtime, time just to get away by yourself or get away for yourself and to walk away from your business. And yesterday, as we know, was Sunday. And of course, I, being a Starbucks fan, I spend a lot of time at Starbucks, and a lot of my writing that I do, I literally do at Starbucks locations all over the country. But yesterday I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and went into a Starbucks location, just doing my thing. At the end of me doing my thing, I closed my laptop and walked out and went to, my destination, arrived at my destination and opened the laptop again to do more work. That's what entrepreneurs do. And realized that I had left my external hard drive at Starbucks. And you say, well, Greg, that's not a big problem. Well, yes, it is, because they were closed. At the time that I realized that I had left my external hard drive, Starbucks was closed, the employees were gone, and there was just this sinking feeling in my stomach, in the pit of my stomach. And I am glad to say that I was able to recover my external hard drive this morning. But as I drove away from Starbucks this morning with the external hard drive, I just began to think about how many businesses actually have a contingency plan. We are very concerned about, and the title of today's podcast, by the way, is Contingency Planning for Your Business, Contingency Planning for Your Small Business. We are very concerned about, getting customers in the door, which you need customers. We're very concerned about, making revenue dollars for our business. And yes, we need revenue dollars for our business. We're concerned about, managing our marketing plan and, working out our social media strategy. But at the end of the day, how many business owners actually sit down and make time to write out and develop and have a contingency plan? We don't like, dealing with sometimes the elephant in the room, and you'll find this, in a lot of cases dealing with maybe life insurance in some communities, in certain demographics. We don't necessarily like to discuss the fact that one day, all of us that are breathing oxygen, one day we're going to die. And so sometimes we don't like to deal with, planning for that inevitable day. We don't necessarily like planning for, the in case something happens. And a lot of businesses, run into this problem, with dealing with not having an actual contingency plan in place. Now, for me, I mentioned the story of my external hard drive. The beautiful thing is, I have several redundancies in place. I mean, my business, lives off of a computer. I need my external hard drives, but of course I have multiple external hard drives. I have multiple cloud-based accounts. So I'm never completely down. All right. So you want to have those redundancies in place. And I have those contingency plans in place, for my customers. But how many, and again, as I drove away, the motivation behind this podcast came from that discussion I had with myself. How many business owners actually develop a plan B? We strive every single day. Every single day we're hitting the grind. We're out there knocking on doors. We're getting customers in our store. Well, that's working your plan A. But when plan A doesn't happen, or if something unfortunate happens to your plan A, if your business experiences a fire, do you have the necessary insurance in place to help you to recover? And we're going to get into that, a little bit later in this podcast. We are dealing right now with the Affordable Care Act. All right, that is big. That is big. How many business owners, maybe sole proprietors, actually have a health plan for your business, or insurance plan for your business? If you're unable to do what you're doing right now, all right, is there a contingency plan in place? And we just want to look at it. And there's just a lot of things that could go wrong: fires, floods, tornadoes. We connect these things with contingency planning. Those are the big things. But what about if your main supplier, the main one, the main company that you are relying to obtain your inventory from? Well, what happens if they go out of business? And you've put all your eggs in that basket. We strongly or really need to start taking a look at developing a plan B. What about if you're dealing with a payroll issue, and there's only one individual in your entire organization that knows how to run the payroll, and that payroll person that is sick is you? Can anyone else step up to the plate and ensure that your employees all of a sudden aren't disgruntled because you, being sick, can't pay them? All right, so we need to look at developing a plan B or contingency planning. So as I drove away and this thought became, just hit me, we need to, there's a few things that I want to take a look at today during this podcast, to encourage you, certain principles even that we want to look at today, to encourage you and to maybe even instruct you on developing a contingency plan, for your business. Now, the very first thing that I want to talk about is risk assessment. All right. So for me as a small business owner, the foundation of my business, of course, I build websites. Now, my risk assessment, I'm at the mercy, if you will, of my equipment. I'm at the mercy of, my computer, which I use to develop, web-based programs and websites. I'm at the mercy of my equipment failing. I'm at the mercy of, something crazy happening last night, like me walking out of a Starbucks location and leaving my external hard drive. All right. The next person can pick up that external hard drive, plug it into their computer. If I don't have if I don't have it locked down with security, they can just wipe out the entire hard drive and walk away with an early Christmas gift. All right. So we need to develop and we need to assess the risk. All right. So the need for contingency planning emerges from a thorough analysis of the risk that your current organization faces. Notice I said a thorough analysis. We don't just need to look at this lightly. We don't need to take it lightly. We need to do a thorough analysis of the risk that our current organization or your current organization faces. It also uses thinking. We need to think about new and ongoing projects. What happens, again, as I mentioned earlier, what happens when that plan A doesn't come through? What happens if something unfortunate happens? Let's say tornado season hits you and overnight your entire location, your entire business location is wiped out. All right. For example, there are entire neighborhoods that are in Alabama specifically that I know of that have been completely wiped off the map. Wells Fargo Bank and there in Birmingham took a direct hit from a tornado. All right. And they still haven't rebuilt in that particular location. They were able to get a location, maybe a mile or so away, but their entire bank took a direct hit from a tornado. All right. So what contingency plans were in place for them not to be out of business or not open for the public or open to the public for so long? All right. So we want to use these principles in developing and analyzing, your current risk assessment process. Number one, we want to address all business critical functions. Address all business critical functions. These business critical operations, these business critical functions, you don't have a business if these things don't take place. All right. So we need to address all business critical operations, all business critical functions. A good plan identifies all critical business functions, and it outlines ways. It outlines ways for you to minimize your losses. All right, number 2, let's identify the risk. Identify risk. Conduct a risk analysis. All right, and maybe I'll do a podcast on you conducting a risk analysis. But we need to identify the various risks that your business may face. For example, if you own a business that is possibly in a high crime area, all right, well, we need to identify the risk. Hey, my business location actually sits in a high crime area, so I'm at the risk that when I'm not at my business, or even if I am at my business, I run the risk of robbery. I run the risk of theft. I run the risk of vandalism. All right, so these are things that we need to take a look at. We need to prioritize your risk. Okay? One of the greatest challenges of contingency planning is making sure you don't plan too much. We need a careful balance between over preparing for something that may never happen and an adequate preparation so we can all respond quickly and effectively to a crisis situation when and if it occurs. All right. So again, those 3 things. We want to address all business critical operations, all business critical functions. We want to identify the risk that we have, and we even want to prioritize our risk as well. All right. Now, once we have identified these different things, once we've taken a risk assessment, once we've done a risk analysis on our business, we then want to move to the phase of developing a plan. Developing a plan to help you minimize your losses. Developing a plan B. If you have a plan B, I would even encourage you to maybe go 3 or 4 layers. Have a plan C, a plan D, because we want to see the business to be able to sustain itself. If the business, sustains a hit, an unfortunate hit, whether it be weather, whether it be a fire, whether it be a medical emergency, we don't want to be like many business owners. If we personally take a hit, then also the business is affected. People are showing up at your location and there's a closed sign up, closed for emergencies, and they come by 3 days later and that business is still closed for emergencies. Those aren't good. If you are open for business on Monday and your supplier goes bankrupt on Tuesday, all right, and Wednesday a customer comes into your location desiring to order this or desiring to purchase that, and you can't obtain the product. Why? Because your supplier is out of business. Those aren't good signs. People are going to accept your apology. You're going to be nice about it. You're going to apologize and you say the unfortunate situation has happened, but they're going to walk out of your business location, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to go down the street to the next person who has that same product for sale and buy it. So we want to minimize our risk. We want to prioritize our risks, identify them, and address all business critical operations. And the very next thing that we want to do once we've done those, we want to develop a plan. And after we come back from this commercial break, we're going to talk about developing a plan. We'll be back after these commercials.
Does the thought of filing your taxes have you stressed? Supreme Fast Tax will take the headache out of doing your taxes. Your taxes will be filed error-free the first time and will include Protection Plus from IRS audits. Supreme Fast Tax prepares federal forms and state taxes for all 50 states. Visit us year-round for individual, joint, or small business taxes. Supreme Fast Tax offers convenient pickup and notary services. Get your free estimate today. Call Supreme Fast Tax, 706-507-1040.
Welcome back. Welcome back to CSBJ Radio. I, again, am your host, Greg Wilson, the owner and publisher of Connection Small Business Journal. And what we're discussing today is contingency planning for business. And during the first segment of today's podcast, I mentioned to you just an unfortunate situation that happened with me personally on yesterday. I was in a Starbucks location, as I said earlier, walked out, left my external hard drive. Granted, I was able to get it back this morning, but I very well could have lost all the data, all the information on that particular hard drive, which prompted me thinking, how many business owners actually, plan for those type of situations? How many of us go out on a limb and have a plan in place, a written plan and a digital plan in place, for some of those unfortunate situations, whether it be fire, a medical emergency, floods or tornadoes, vandalism, robberies, thefts. How many of us actually have a plan in place for handling, those type of situations? All right, so during our first segment, we talked about developing taking